Been walking through the Navy Exchange and wonder why all the naval pride and heritage gear is horrifically ugly and you wouldn't actually wear it. Have you ever wanted some really cool gear and you just don't know where to go? Well, I got you, fam. Go to dgutspodcast.com immediately. Get yourself some naval pride and heritage gear you'll actually wear in public. We're working on new designs all the time, open to ideas. We're trying to create a brand that lets you display that pride, but doesn't make you cringe. Also, if you're willing to and you're able to, please go to patreon.com/dgutspodcast, pick one of the 5 tiers and become a patron today. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Don't Give Up the Ship Podcast. This is episode 131. And today I am talking to Jen Schooley. She is in tandem with Grant Kahn, who you may or may not know from Reddit and other Navy internet fame as the mental health chief that's out there, since medically retired, but he's done a tremendous amount for advocating for mental health and literally going out of his way to track down sailors that are expressing suicidal ideations on the internet and figuring out where they are and getting them the help that they need. And he's been the front facing part of that, the thing that everybody recognizes, but turns out there's a lot more to it than that, which I always suspected, because there's no way Grant's got time to do all this by himself. And their ability to track people down on the internet, I have since learned, is a very CT skill. And so she's a CT. We get into all that, but Jen is kind of the back end of it. She's very involved, very active. We get into the mechanisms of that, like the Discord server. On the Navy Discord server, they have a channel that is a place where you can go and vent, and there are people there, including Jen, that will go out of their way to help you out. But there's a bunch of other people in that server that also are involved in this kind of informal alliance of just awesome human beings that are getting after mental health, being available for people. And just kind of being a single point of contact to begin, right, the process of getting a person the formal help that they need. So it's very cool, and it's very illustrative of how and I've talked about it before with other examples, but this is a really powerful example of the good you can do outside the network, the formal constructs of the Navy, right? You don't need to wait for an admin. You don't need to wait for big Navy to fix your problems. I'm not saying that shouldn't be the way that it happens. Of course, I think the institution's on the hook for these things. And I think it's reprehensible that this has been allowed to become the problem that it is, and that chiefs like Jen and Grant and all the other people that are involved have to do what they're doing on their own time and dime to help these people out. It's the organization's responsibility. Of course, I would love nothing more than for them to stop sitting on their hands and really get into fixing the problem for real. Because when you see how powerful what they're doing is and how simple it is, and I would venture to guess wildly cost effective in comparison to a lot of things than the big Navy thinks it should do, or thinks that they would need to do, or that they are currently doing. Yeah, I mean, it's really powerful stuff. I had a really great time talking to her about it, and I'll put all the links to all the resources in the show notes, particularly the Discord server. So make sure you check those things out and be involved if you can. I mean, they need all the help they can get to create yet another resource that actually works. So with that, I hope you all enjoy this. Check it out. But yeah, just jump into your background, bio, however much detail you want to share, and then we'll jump into the topic at hand.
Awesome. So I'm Jen Schooley, and I am soon to be retired. CWTC, yeah. They changed it. Oh, CTNC. Jesus. I'm sticking with that.
Got it.
They changed our. Yeah. So CTNC. allegedly CWTC, soon to
Allegedly.
be retired. I've been in the Navy for 21 and a half years. I'll be 22 in December when I retire. I came in as a Chinese linguist.
Okay.
Married, couple kids. My husband's a dirty senior chief, so God love him. Yep. Outside the circle of trust. And I've been working in cryptology for 20 something years. But being a mom, you get that mom touch to things, and you start to listen because you got your own kids and they get boo-boos, and you have to listen to junior sailors, and it's really the same thing, just a lot more cuss words when you're at work with your kids. Hopefully,
I've been saying that for years, and everybody kind of looks at me sideways because I don't have kids, but I'm like, these are my kids. Like that's what they mean to me. Like I just have like a couple thousand of them. So I mean,
exactly.
through the podcast,
and so,
I have a couple 100,000 of them. But whatever.
In 2020, when COVID hit, I came back from I went to Djibouti, right, a million years ago. And as a result of being deployed to DJ, my lungs were trash. So I have bad asthma. So when COVID hit, I was home. Like, you're high risk. Jesus. You can't come in.
Fun fact. So was I. That was when my cancer stuff was happening. Everybody's freaking out about COVID. I'm like, I have a brain tumor, so I'm going to go do that. You guys can keep this shit the fuck out of my face.
Right. So I'm sitting on Facebook like everybody else, and Grant is just doing great work. So Grant Kimbalanoff, for those who don't know, doing great work out there, the face of like really trying to get to the left of suicides. And so I started talking to him because I was very inspired about what he was doing.
Yeah.
And so the more we talked, I'm like, can I help you?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that'd be great. So we started a team. And so we had our own, what started as a Discord turned into a Slack server, back and forth between platforms.
Okay. So that can you talk about the Discord server so people are aware of it? Because, like not everybody's going to listen for 2 hours. So let's get that out there, and I'll put it in the show notes and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, there's a Navy Discord server that all the baby squidlets like to sit in, and they will bullshit for hours. And it's great. I love my baby squidlets. And so they'll sit there and they'll bullshit for hours. But what we will do is we would just kind of pay attention. And what we started to do is we would notice when people were starting to spiral. Yeah. Yeah. And we're like, hey, we'd go talk to them. Hey, you want to talk, man? What's going on? Yeah. And so then we started our own little group. We called it Lifeline to Help. You can tag Lifeline, and it's going to that red star cluster in the server to get one of us to get our attention. And so the admins have been very proactive about helping us be looped in. Yeah, they're amazing. So we're constantly looking for, They came and grabbed me, dragged me into it. Now I have my own server, and they're amazing. Bunch of cool kids over there in Discord. We have a mental health channel on Discord, but the problem we were running into is the mental health channel also turned into a full-on like bitch session. I'm like, guys, there's only so many of us. There's a lot more of you. I really need to delineate between what's mental health and what's normal sailor bitching. Yeah. And I'm like, I appreciate sailor bitching. I need you to do that because a bitching sailor is a breathing sailor. Yeah. But I need this to be for like if you're in a bad way. Right. So we got some of those kinks worked out. And so I just solicit for volunteers now who can help monitor the channels. Right. Okay. And I have sailors in there who maybe they're not comfortable talking to someone, but they're like, hey, Jen, because I go by Jen on there. I'm like, please don't chief me. Like, right. Just I want to be the one that they can talk to. I do the same thing with everybody that gets a hold of me. It's always Master Chief. I'm like, I'm just a dude. Like, it's D-Guts. I'm just a dude. Like, I don't. I'm a lot more flippant with my name now because I don't really care if people know who I am. I didn't want people walking up to me while I was in the Navy still and be like, D-Guts. Like, no. I have to be Master Chief here while I'm wearing this uniform, but now it don't matter. Right. Just a dude. Yeah. So just like, if they're not comfortable, they'll flag me. Jen, can you talk to them? Sure, no problem. Yeah. And so we start having these conversations. Well, so not only on Discord, but we're watching Reddit and Facebook and Twitter. And like Grant had this worked out. Huh. And I was wondering how he was doing that because he had a lot of success, but I only ever saw it as him. And I always assumed there were like people behind the curtain, but like, yeah. Grant's got the face, I've got the face for radio, and Grant's got the face. So, so just leave it. Well, I mean, let's not downplay your role because the Ariana and Desiree have taught me the power of CT's ability to get things done on the internet. Because I've had some trolls come at me and some other stuff, and man, they got identities. Let me know. Yeah, they're on it. It's like a superpower, so it's impressive. I can imagine. It's fun.
it comes in useful.
It's like
in these
chaos.
Yeah,
what chaos can we do?
Well, my wife's like a little sleuth on the internet too. Like if you need somebody stalked, she's on it, and she'll find out all you need to know real quick.
She should have been a CT.
She should have been.
So in 2020, when all of this was going on, what we were seeing was an influx of, and we help more than just sailors, but predominantly we work with sailors.
Right.
But the more the isolation, the more they were just shutting down. Human beings are not meant to be isolated.
Right.
And what a lot of people didn't realize was after they were leaving Great Lakes, they were going to like essentially a holding cell.
Yeah. Where like no one pays attention to them. Yeah. Yep.
Right. So this is an introduction to the Navy. They have no esprit de corps, no camaraderie.
Yeah.
They didn't get to see their families, and they're just depressed. Yeah. And it's no wonder they're drinking like fish. And it's no wonder they're suicidal and losing their shit. Like, we get it.
Yeah.
So in 2020, we were super busy. Right. We were on the phone all the time. Like, I'd get a message and like tell my husband, like, hey, I'll be
okay. I was going to ask, because of COVID, they didn't get to see their families after boot camp graduation. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. Got it. That makes more sense. Because I'm like, why would they not? Like, but COVID. Okay. Stupid.
Because they were isolated.
Yeah.
And so they're locked up. And you're talking about this group of sailors that came in around, end of 2019, early 2020, who have no coping skills because they came into an isolated Navy. They didn't get the same bonding that like you and I got when we came in, where we all stuck together and then we went to our A schools. They're on hold because they can't get into A school because A school is so backed up, trying to space it out for social distancing. So we had more and more of these poor kids who were just falling apart.
Looking back on all that shit just gets funnier and funnier. It's aging like milk. So I'm just like giggling myself at the idea of them going through all that pain so we can socially distance. And like, why?
Right.
Like,
but most of the Navy's not clued into the fact like, hey, you've got this whole group of people here who have just joined the world's finest Navy and can't talk to anybody. And they wonder why they're like, oh, why are they so soft? I'm like, they're not. They're stressed.
Yeah. Like, well, and alienated. Thing. Yeah. Like,
correct.
Isolation's a motherfucker. Like, and it was interesting when I did that podcast with Dan Lombard, who's that Army combat vet. And he runs the nonprofit Project Refit. His main focus is combating isolation. Like, he's like, that's our mission. Is like, he's like, the main reason why veterans have issues after they get out is because that whole community, that whole structure gets stripped away. And like in my mind, even like at the end, as I was retiring, I wildly underestimated how important it was to me. Even because like a lot of times when I was at work, like most of the people, I'm like, I don't want to spend time with these people. Like if I had the option, I wouldn't. Like there was always like a handful that I was cool with and that I would like hang out with outside of work if the opportunity presented itself. But for the most part, it was just like, they're people I'm working with, but like not my flavor.
I don't want to see your face.
Yeah, I don't want to spend time with you unless I have to.
But you had them consistently every day. You were not alone. So even if you didn't like them, you weren't by yourself.
And you wildly underestimate even just the like conversations and just the interactions with people that are like kind of like you and doing the same. Yeah, just having that community structure generally is way more important than people think it is.
Right. So imagine coming into boot camp and you remember being vaguely being in boot camp a million years ago and they take your entire identity away. But then at the end of it, you get a new one, but now you don't.
Right.
And it's like, you have no idea who you are and you have no support network and you haven't seen your family and all these things that you were planning on happening, all this accomplishment to show, you get none of it. And it's depressing.
Yeah, there's not like, I feel like there's a release at the end of boot camp too that you get when it's over. You get to celebrate with your family.
Yeah, because you get to hug your mom.
Yeah, you get to go do some normal human being things too, like go to the mall or go get food or whatever. Like it's like getting out of prison. You get to like go do some normal things.
They didn't get any of it. Exactly.
It's over.
You're on parole. Yes.
Yeah.
So they didn't get any of that, and so we saw this trend of these sailors who were just breaking down. Yeah. And people are like, I don't understand what their problem is. I'm like, okay, you're an idiot. Like they're isolated.
Well, they're not.
But so then the other problem,
they're not idiots. They're ignorant. I feel like, and that's probably charitable sounding, but it's like they just don't know.
Very charitable.
Well, it's like when I go in on like leadership and competence, it's like it sounds harsher than I actually intend it, but it's like they, by very little fault of their own, they are at the level of incompetence that they are because the institution never did anything to educate them or train them or like.
I mean, I kind of liken it to all the ones who are like back in my Navy, and I'm like, yeah, the ones where you guys took a shit in someone's charge book. Okay.
Yeah.
Things had to change for a reason.
Yeah.
But we are an evolving force, an evolving species, and people do need people.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's really hard for some to understand, like, that this group that came through just feeling alone. And so it's understandable. I'm not excusing it, but I understand where all the unhealthy, because most of us have unhealthy coping mechanisms one way or another being in the military, but the influx of drinking, and
I eat a lot of weed, like a lot.
I'm not retired yet. I sure don't.
I know.
So, I won't even look at CBD. I'm like, nope.
It's the way it helps me sleep. When you are retired, like I have all the sleep issues, anxiety issues, all the things, and it helps a lot. Like I had a rough week. Somebody was kind enough to bash in both the windows on my car while I was in school. And it just like set me on this like shitty mood of a week. You know what I mean? Like I was just down about, and it wasn't even like being angry about the occurrence. It was more just this like, it's like, why, man? Like now I got to pay $500 deductible to get my windows fixed. I can't drive my car. I'm like, what? Like, why? And they didn't even steal anything. I'm like, why, dude? And it's like, you just lose a little faith in humanity and get a little sad and shit. And yep.
Well, so then take that thought, right?
But weed helps.
Think about how you felt. Yeah, well,
Mike
we don't have
like,
that.
See, this is why we don't talk to you.
We don't talk to you, stoner. But think about like these sailors, right? They come in and now they're isolated, and the rest of the military has been sitting through COVID and they're just breaking down. And then things start to go wrong. Like maybe one of their friends gets sick and dies. And then this snowball just starts to build. Yeah. And they don't have that daily interaction. Yep. So where we came in is we would start just talking to them. Yeah. And we're talking some late night phone calls. We've had some scary phone calls where Grant, like we had, the whole team was on this night. When we know someone's in a bad way, like really in a bad way, we're getting the cops involved. But the problem is some of these jokers don't tell us who they really are because it's fake personas. We found it on Reddit. You know, you name it. And so this one guy, I remember Grant was on the phone with him and he's trying to talk him down and he's cocking and decocking the gun. Yeah. And we are scrambling to get the cops involved to figure out where this guy is. And luckily we did. But, you know, Grant's on the phone. He can hear the cops coming through the door to get this poor guy. And he ended up being safe. And then afterwards, I'm having that conversation with Grant. Like, are you okay?
Yeah, for real. That's really stressful. That's traumatic. Like,
right. So then as a team, we check in on each other. Yeah. It's like, hey, man. So I told him, like, you're going to go talk to the chaps or your shrink tomorrow because you have to be good. I need to make sure that you're okay. Yeah. So we had those real conversations with each other that it's like, hey, if you're not good, take a time out.
That's good. And that's okay. Like trying to like put the superhero cape on, like that takes a toll every single time you do it. And so it's like, I'm glad you guys
I've cried on the phone with service members who are hurting, just to let them know, like, hey, I'm like, and I told them, like, I don't know you, but I love you. I love you as a human. Yeah. You're my brother or sister. I'm like, I think I
freak people out when I say that. Sometimes I say that to people that like there's people that I don't know how other people form relationships remotely, but like I feel like I can get to know somebody pretty well by having these conversations. And so like I feel like some of these people are good friends of mine and they're really important to me, even though I've never met them in real life. Like Christina DiRienzo is an example. And like, I'll be like, I love you guys. No shit. Like I love you. I want you to know you're valued. Like you're very important to me. Like those kinds of things to like.
That's what I tell my team on Discord. I'm like, I love you guys. You're killing it. Make sure I tell them, like, set healthy boundaries. Make sure you're taking care of yourself because it's a lot when you're going to help somebody that's in a bad way. Yeah. Another scary situation we had, and this is where McPon Smith did help us, right? So I have no shame and I have no chill either, right? So none. I am like, we're getting the job done.
Yeah, but I have no chill either.
Yeah. But this is where many people have accused me of having no boundaries with upper echelons, and it's true because if someone's going to get hurt, I'm going straight up.
Like, right. Yeah.
I'm pushing through.
Rank
so
becomes irrelevant
sailor,
when we're dealing with a
totally
problem like
irrelevant.
that. Yeah.
Polite, but like, hey, I need help. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there, and this sailor's wife is reaching out through, I forget what channels at the time, but mm-hmm. you know, her husband's going to kill himself. He's depressed. Well, he's not on his ship. He's assigned to his ship A, right. but he's actually out on ship
like
B.
TAD or whatever.
And, yeah, he's TAD forward, and then of course nobody on the ship really knows who he is, and it's a nightmare. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no like open recall roster. Like, here's how you go and reach this ship when it's out there. Like the quarterdeck only gets you so far. And so at that point, I did reach out to Mick Pondsmith, and I'm like, look, I'm sorry to bother you, but this sailor's going to hurt themselves, and this is the situation, and I need you to please get the message out because I don't know how.
Right.
And that's not one of those things where I can sit there and go to my chief and then my department and take it up, right? It's like time's of the essence.
It'll be too late,
like, nope. It'll be too late. And so he was very instrumental in that. We did reach out and use the Chief's Mess. You'll see me post on Facebook in the Chief's Mess. I'm like, hey, we need help. I'm looking for this sailor. And we get a lot of positive responses. Like the power of the mess is very strong for that. And I've had some very positive experiences, and I've had a few.
Yeah. That, you know, I'm the same one of my kids who the open letter to commanders episode where I went a little ham. I don't know if you're aware of that one, but
I have to check that one out. No, I'm not.
Oh God. Yeah. I get it's me screaming. It basically, he had gone to everybody in his chain of command and did all the things he was supposed to, and everybody just blew him off. And he was at a point where, he's an LS, and he was like, I'm gonna, take this. Like he was carrying a heavy part, and he was like considering jumping in off the pier, like and holding this heavy part, right?
And you take it seriously. You have
to. And everybody he talked to just wasn't listening. And it's so then, he finally, I'd have to go back in the text thread. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but basically like just one of his friends figured it out and put him in, like just left work, put him in a car, went to the nearest army hospital and got him like, and he was like inpatient for a while. Absolutely. and he's doing great now. He plans on separating in April.
Yeah.
And, but like, he's been sending me screenshots of a text thread between like the leadership in the place that he's like TAD to right now. And same shit, just like super, just ignorant, insensitive bullshit. And it's like it's more egregious in my mind because these people know exactly what's going on with this kid and why he's there. And they're still doing like making jokes about not taking suicide seriously in a text thread with a kid who they know is not on his submarine because suicidal ideation or attempt. Right.
So I'm glad you bring that up. I had this happen not too long ago with USS unnamed ship, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to praise in public and I will condemn in private.
Yeah.
Right. But so USS unnamed shipped with the unnamed command master chief. Right. Mm-hmm. So I have been working with their sailor or their former sailor for a while. He was forward deployed, had a drinking problem, depressed, said he was going to hurt himself. Right. And the number one thing that I need to stress to commands is if a sailor says they're in a bad way, that's it.
Yeah.
Unless you are a medical command.
Right.
You are not
unless you're a medical professional.
To determine.
Right. I don't
they blew them off.
Yeah. I don't understand why they don't. Because like one of the things that they do, and that like on submarines, we have an HM1 usually, or an HMC that is an IDC, like an independent duty corpsman. Yep. I'm sure they have some training, but like they're not like mental health professionals. And so it's like,
correct. And
why don't
IDC
we have,
is not going to be the one you want to talk to either.
Yeah. But like, why not a mental health tech of some kind where like, why, even if it's a new rate or just a variant of corpsman, where it's like all they do is mental health assessment. And so they can, maybe they can't sit there and be your shrink, right? But they can sit there and assess and be like, okay, this is a fucking problem, doc. We need to get him off the ship. We need to whatever, like take him out of certain duties or like whatever the move is. But like, this is serious. This isn't just a sailor wanting to not stay on watch or something. Because the problem, go ahead, sorry.
Was like, you're going to get sailors who are going to do it, right? Mm-hmm. But more often than not, if they say they're intending to hurt themselves, they're serious about it.
Yeah.
And so there is a command that I'm going to commend here, right? And not just because I used to hail from there, but because Cryptologic Warfare Group 6 has done it right. There is a woman there, Lori Hanley, who set up the suicide prevention advocacy team.
Okay.
And she dispatches her pairs, and they grab Sailor in trouble and takes him over to Walter Reed.
Okay.
That's it. You go. So when you ring the bell, you go. And yes, they'd had a couple sailors where it's kind of like, yes, we know they don't mean it, but we're still going to go.
Right.
And they knew that, but that was so rare that they'd have someone that would waste their time. And so this unnamed ship and this unnamed command master chief tried to tell me that his sailor, who I knew was suicidal, there's nothing wrong. He just wants attention is exactly what he told me. He called me a liar and said, I'm enabling him. And I was like,
that's the same.
And that was actually,
that's the same sentiment.
That was the impetus of me reaching out to you guys.
That's the same sentiment.
So
I want to it's almost the same quote. Like he said, let me get this. I want to get the screenshot so that I accurately quote it. But it's like, it was, where is it? No, it's not this one. It's like he basically, they're in this text thread and one of the guys says, okay, so the guy saying it is, he's like, I'm going to be late to work because my wife has to do something for work. And his wife is a mental health counselor of some kind. And he said she has a suicidal patient who will apparently kill himself if she misses whatever it is. And then my kid said, I really hope that person is okay. Like normal human empath response. And then his senior chief says, statistically speaking, people who talk about it and more than a couple of times do it just for attention. So, and I'm like,
well, that's why it's called a cry for help.
What the fuck? But what the fuck are you talking about? And knowing, because he just said, I hope the person's okay. This kid's in the text thread, his entire story. So presumably you think he's full of shit too, and he just doesn't want to be on the boat. Right. It's one of those, how do we have, and this is this person's in an ISIC role. So it's this isn't a dude that's just some rando senior chief in an office. Not that makes it any better, but it's holy
now
shit.
They have a lot more authority.
Yeah,
senior chief. Yeah.
He's the guy that every single LCPO type on every submarine in that squadron is going to go to as their first line, and they're kind of not going the the Cobb CMC route, but that chain of command, and just said if they're stressed, if they need help, if they're whatever, they're going to that guy. And it's just
and that's very disheartening to think oh, great, we've got you.
It's inexcusable. I would love to dime on him. I just gotta, I gotta get the permission of that kid because I don't want to make his entire work life hostile. And
well, you put out to the universe and let the universe handle the jerk. But the other one I wanted to tell you about that did a killer job was Surface Combatant Systems Training Command up in Great Lakes.
Okay.
Right. They had a sailor in distress. And this kid, again, we saw him on Discord and he was in a really bad way. And I teach everybody on the team, you have to ask the words, are you going to hurt yourself?
Yeah.
That is the most uncomfortable question you're going to ask.
Right.
Just say it. Because if they are, they're ready to answer that question. And if they're not, they're like, no, I'm not going to do anything. Damn it. Stop asking me that.
Yeah.
You have to ask. And so I asked him, are you going to hurt yourself? And he goes, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, we're not doing that today. We're not hurting ourselves today. So we had his picture from Discord. We took his picture from Discord and we zoomed in on it and could see the barracks room number in the background. So I took that photo and threw it up into the Chiefs Mess page on Facebook. And I'm like, is this your kid? I need your help. This sailor's in a bad way. And one of the chiefs came to me and was like, yeah, he's mine. I'm like, okay, this is his name. This is what I got. Please go get him. And I need you to let me know when you got him.
Right.
And they did. They did exactly what we asked them to do. Snatch them up, make sure they're good, stay with them, get them help. And it's just the best feeling when that you've got positive control over a sailor or a service member in need. And so they are my shining star of like, this is exactly what we need you to do. Take it seriously, snatch him up, take him to medical. Go.
I suspect I know the answer, but I'm curious what you think as to like why it's so inconsistent. Like, why are your interactions with these commands so wildly varying when this stuff comes up?
I wish I knew. I don't know. I think there's just this is the creepy in me. I think there's part of this fleet mentality of, it's not that bad. They're just a pussy.
Right.
They need to toughen up. And there's not as much of an aggressive posture as there needs to be like, are you going to hurt yourself? It's the assumption of like, they're just lying. And I'm like, no.
Yeah. And that's
if someone says it, like, take it seriously.
When I pull that thread in my mind, it's the same as the leadership stuff. It's just ignorance. Like they've never been taught like what this thing is and how it works. Cause even like when I was having issues, it was like, I was already kind of having anxiety issues, but I just thought it was normal anxiety because I was doing something on deployment that would give anybody anxiety that is like actively thinking about it. But then, it, like when I got diagnosed with cancer and all that stuff, it kind of like pulled the pin on this grenade of like all my stuff just kind of, it just boiled over.
Fuck it.
Yeah. It just boiled over and I was a hot mess. Yeah. And so then that's when I got into therapy. And like, when I was talking to the psychologist, it was like some of the stuff he would say to me was like, it felt incredibly obvious, or maybe it was something I felt like I already knew or whatever. But like, it was like I just needed him to say it to me, like, because he's a doctor in psychology and I'm
sometimes
not.
You need the words to come out of your face.
Yeah. And then sometimes I didn't know, like, I didn't know what was happening. I didn't understand why I couldn't control my emotions. I didn't understand why I was pissed off all the time. I didn't understand why I would feel so down. And it was like he would explain things to me and then give me tools. And so like, not only do I now know what's going on, I can recognize when it's coming on, why it's coming on, and I have tools to do something about that to either prevent it or mitigate it or whatever, right? And it's like none of those things have been taught to anyone, like unless you're a mental health professional.
And
so yeah,
that's what I was trying to tell when I went to McPon Smith's office to talk about this with him, right?
Yeah, so let's get into that story. I want to know all about, like, so you went to him to pitch an idea. What was the idea? How did that discourse go, etc.?
Right. So this did not go as I'd hoped, okay? And again, this is not me. I'm not here to bash McPon Smith. It just did not go the way I envisioned it would go.
Right.
And I felt very disappointed and frustrated afterwards. So I went in to talk about what we've done, had the solid numbers, which I don't have in front of me because I'm dumb and forgot to print them out, but talked about like the number of people we interacted with, what we were doing, and all the positive things that we were able to do to get to the left of suicide, right? It wasn't even a reaction. It was prevention.
Right.
And so cool. And I'm like, okay, so here's what commands can do right now to help their sailors. And started to talk about the happiness chemicals. And so for those who do not know what the happiness chemicals are, and I always have to look it up because I always get it
serotonin
wrong.
and
dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphin.
Yeah.
And I started to bring it up, and he just had this like look on his face of like, you've got to be kidding me, you fucking hippie. Like if his inner monologue was coming out, which couldn't be further from truth. I'm like so far from being a hippie, but the science behind it really makes sense. And I'm like, these are things commands can be doing right now.
Yeah.
Because when you're trying to hack your happiness chemicals, and this is stuff my therapist was explaining to me to help me better deal with my triggered responses to things. It's like, okay, so are you getting enough sunshine and fresh air? Are you playing with your dog? Do you eat dark chocolate? Are you doing something artistic? And like things that you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then you see the science behind it. It's like, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So I started to talk about it, and that's when I lost him. And he's like, well, have you talked to a doctor about this? And I'm like, yes, I have.
Yeah.
And it's like, my dad's a physician. And he's like, have you talked to a doctor that's not your dad? And I'm thinking like, the fuck? Did his MD just disappear magically because he's my dad? I'm like, it's not fair.
I mean, it's like an assumption that your dad's biased and telling you what you want to hear, probably just being cynical, I guess.
No, just a scientific conversation, which I do.
No, I mean on Russ's part, like he probably is like, oh, right, of course your dad told you all. You know what I mean? Like trying to just make you feel better.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because I need my dad to sit here and make this shit up so I feel better about this suicide program that I'm trying to do to make the Navy a better place.
Yeah.
But I just felt so frustrated at that point. And then chief season happened. The next week, my name's on the list. I become a COVID chief. My life sucks for like 4 years because the longest season from hell. And
that was not a fun year.
I had to push pause on helping sailors until Christmas break, because that was the year that chief selectees got Christmas break. And there we go. We're on Christmas break, and I'm helping someone who's suicidal.
Right.
And then as soon as we're off Christmas break, I'm still on the hook, because it's not like I'm like, okay, sorry, I got to go back to doing stupid, reindeer game shit. Can't help you. I'm now on the hook for everything the mess is going to yell at me for, and the health and care and feeding of this person in distress.
Right.
But we lean on each other. I'm like, so if I couldn't be there for something, I would ping Grant. I'm like, can you keep an eye on this person here, or whoever on the team?
Yeah.
And in fact, last month I had shoulder surgery, right? And I had hit Grant up, and I was like, hey, I am going to be out of pocket for a few days. Can you just keep an eye on the server and make sure nothing goes squirrely? And he's like, yep, got you, no problem.
Yeah.
It's such an informal process. It's not like you have to put a request in to not be available, or you just talk to each other like, hey, I'm not available. But so we'll go back to, your happiness chemicals. And this is where I really stress to commands things that they could be doing. And when I start to talk about it, it's like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So dopamine, right? I'm going to read these because, again, I don't remember all of them by heart, but you complete a task. Who doesn't feel good when you get something done, right? So when I find that sailors are really depressed, those are the ones you're going to see. You walk into their barracks room and it looks like a tornado hit.
Yeah.
And you're like, why can't you clean your room? I've had this conversation with somebody just like, oh, I'm depressed. I'm like, go clean one thing.
Yeah.
And it builds. Like once they get one thing done, they get better.
My part of my therapy, was I was telling him I can't, I want to do things, but I just can't get started. I can't move. And then he was like,
It's called task paralysis. It sucks.
And it's not like the why can't you clean your room? It's like I'm already shitting on myself in my head because I want to do these things, but I can't. And then I'm a piece of shit because I can't
clean my room, and I fuck up, and I can't pass the uniform inspection. I can't pass room
fucking
inspection.
Doom cycle, right? And then that was one of the things for the cognitive behavioral therapy or whatever. He was just try. He's like, you're allowed to be at a 0. You're allowed to have days where nothing gets done, so you can give yourself permission when it's that bad.
It can't be every day though,
right? But some days, when you don't feel a 0, maybe you're a 1 or a 2, just do one thing. Take out the trash.
Right.
Just do one.
So that's the next thing is doing a self-care activity. And I tell people all the time, showering is a self-care. And so it sounds dumb, but I'm like, have you showered today? No. Yeah. Go get your ass in the shower. Go stand there. Let the water just hit you. Just get in the shower. Have you eaten today? No. Yep. Go get a snack. Celebrating little wins, right? I took the trash out. I am not a dirtbag. So those are all things you can do for dopamine.
Yeah.
It's called your reward chemical. Oxytocin.
Almost every day it's yoga. I go out. I built a cold plunge because that helps a lot. Not just how my my body hurts a lot. So that helps. I have joints and just all kinds of shit that hate me. But that helps a ton. But then it also gives you a serotonin spike, but it doesn't bleed off quickly. It lasts for 4 or 5 hours. So you feel really good. We'll come to that
one because it's serotonin's your mood stabilizer.
Yeah, and then if I work out, and that's another one where it's if I can get 1 out of those 3 every day, I don't feel like a complete useless piece of shit. You know what I mean?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And these are little things. So your next one's oxytocin, is your love hormone, right? So playing with a dog, playing with a baby, holding someone's hand, getting a hug, giving a compliment, receiving a compliment. Those, it sounds really fluffy, but when I cross-rated from CTI to CTN, I had to go down to A school, right? And so I took my dog down there. I had a service dog. May he rest in peace. Took my service dog down to Pensacola with me. And I would take him to base on weekends. And these squidlets would come out of the barracks. Yeah. Pet your dog.
Oh my God.
Yes, pet my dog.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And so, you've got these baby sailors, these junior sailors who haven't seen their family pet in years.
Right.
Right. And they want to pet a dog. So what I tell commands, I'm like, if you guys have a chance to have a morale day, and you have non-aggressive dogs, bring your dogs.
Yeah.
Let the sailors play with them. I said, it's going to go a lot further than you can imagine. And they're like, what? And I'm like, it sounds crazy, but trust me, everyone wants to pet a dog.
Right.
There was a joke on deployment. I would get abducted because there'd be a van that would say free puppies and I'd be gone. I'd get snatched up.
Yeah. So would me and my wife.
There you go.
100%.
So serotonin, your mood stabilizer. Okay. So that's going to be meditating, running, going out in the sun, getting your vitamin D, walking in nature, swimming, cycling, things that you're going to do to get that Zen feeling.
Yeah.
And if you're in a place where you're going to have a seasonal affective disorder, they can put you on higher doses of vitamin D to compensate for it if you don't want to do the UV lamps. Like I was feeling like complete crap, like so depressed. And they checked my blood levels and like your vitamin D is way off.
Right.
So they put me on this high dose every week. I got to take this weird looking capsule of vitamin D.
I take vitamin D every single day. Yeah.
And it works. And then the last one's endorphins. It's called your painkiller.
Yeah.
Laughing, essential oils, if that's your thing.
Yeah.
Watching a comedy. This is the one that I love, dark chocolate. Okay. So we have exercising too, and of course, walking fresh air, but dark chocolate. So I used to keep a basket of candy on my desk and I would catch sailors would come by and stop and get candy. I'd also, catch JOs and stuff. Like it's like a fishing in a barrel.
Yeah.
I'd snag the JOs or another chief or something, but that gives you the chance to also talk to them.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, like,
bullshit.
I don't even know if it's like, I'm sure there's some science behind the dark chocolate as a substance being good for that, but also just like, you got a piece of candy. Somebody gives me a fucking bag of Skittles. I'm going to be thrilled about it. Like tropical smoothie Skittles. Trap. Those are the best.
Thank you. It's Halloween. I mean, for all of us parents who don't want it at their house, bring that shit in, set it on your desk, set a trap for your sailors and catch some baby squidlets and talk to them. Because if you're in a position where you can't go and walk the deck plates and talk to everybody all the time, because maybe you're in a job where you can't, but they know that there's Twix bars at your desk. Like, obviously, like,
yeah, it just gets people in the door and then you can talk to them. Yeah. I like
Absolutely. Set traps.
I like it. Set traps for baby squidlets.
It's so easy. That's it. Set traps for baby squidlets.
This episode is going to have the title is going to have something to do with baby squidlets. I'm trapping them.
Well, because I had been counseled at one point that I wasn't supposed to call sailors kids, and I'm like,
fuck off. I've gotten criticism from listeners about calling them kids, and I'm like, look, man, it's not like a reference.
Endearment.
Yeah, it's not a reference to your maturity level. I'm not like passing judgment on you. It's a term of endearment. Like that's what you mean to me. It's so like I got some feedback about don't call us kids. I'm like, fuck off. Like I'm calling them kids because when I'm talking about them, I'm thinking about like those people that I feel like are my children, like, so yeah.
Right. And so the guys on my Discord server call me mom.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm like, hell yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
and I yell at them like their mom too. I'm like, don't fuck up.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people form relationships like that with certain people throughout their service. That like my LPO, he just made chief this year. He's at sea though, unfortunately, so I couldn't be there. But he when he was my LPO, it was his first submarine. He was a second class, and he told me he's like. You remind me of my dad. So it's like, I'm terrified to disappoint you. And like, so we had these conversations about how like, you need to be able to tell me when it's too much. And also cause he was incredible. And he was like, got to a point where I was almost overwhelming him with responsibility because he was so great at it. But then, like he same thing. He likes like, yeah, you're like my dad. It's like, it's weird.
But that's how you know you've also earned their trust and their respect when you have that familial touch. And it doesn't mean that good order and discipline is going to break down to show your human side. And things, members of the mess can do because your sailor comes in, you're automatically in this mom and dad role, whether or not you like it. It comes with the magic khaki pants. Like the second you get the magic khaki pants, it also comes with like instant parenthood of a bunch of kids you didn't sign up for.
Right.
You have to be able to take that moment and figure out whether or not your sailor needs a fucking hug. Like that sounds so fluffy and I get it.
Yeah.
But we're going to go back to isolation, depression. Sometimes they just, I'm like, and you can ask them like, do you need a hug? And mean it.
I hug people all the time. Like I hugged people in uniform all the time. Like I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like we actually
bring it in.
One of my chiefs, It was a real petty complaint filed by one of my instructors when I was at the A school, against a chief. And it was just like, she didn't get the eval she wanted. So she was just going scorched earth. But the chief was she was the best chief there. She was incredible. And the sailors tried to say that she was having an extramarital affair with this master gunnery sergeant that was at the Marine Corps schoolhouse. And the master guns was an accepted chief. Like, he went through the season like a million years ago. He'd been effectively a chief longer than any of us. So he was always around. He loved chiefs, and that's why he was always around. So like the like damning evidence that this petty instructor got was a picture of them hugging. And I'm like, I hug her 3 times a week, probably. I hug the master guns, the male, every time I see him. I'm like, so it's like, this isn't an event. Like, when they came, they had to send an 04 down to do an investigation. And I'm just like, I closed the door behind him because I was a SEL at the time. And I was just like, sir, like, you will probably see me hug a chief today. And like, what are we even fucking talking about? And then he was basically like, he's like, senior, calm down. I get it. This is a formality. We just have to do it. But like, we already kind of know where this is going to go. So just relax. Like, you don't need to die on this hill because there's no hill to die on. Like, basically, unless we find something crazy. And I'm like, you're not gonna. And it's like, yeah, it was ridiculous. But it's like, I would go out, like when I was a master chief doing inspections on submarines. Like, if I went out on one, and one of the guys that worked for me on my previous submarine was a rider. Like, he was just filling a gap on that boat on deployment. And he walked up and hugged me. Like, and in this capacity, I'm the master chief from the flag command that's doing the inspection. And he didn't even say anything. He just walked up and gave me a hug. And I was like, what's up, man?
And
like,
you know what? Sometimes you need a hug.
Yeah. And I don't even care. Like, it wasn't an issue for me. I'm just saying, like, it's a thing that I think should be more acceptable to do, because like, I would do it all the time.
And I get
like,
that there's...
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a time and a place for it. And I know some people are like, it's inappropriate to hug in uniform. But if that's the difference between life and death with somebody, I'm like, screw you in protocol. Well, I'm going to hug this person and see what we can do.
Who's saying that? Because go to a season event and then shut the fuck up afterwards, because everybody's hugging everybody. You know what I mean? Like, so at acceptance, like, come on, fuck off. Like, that's the dumbest shit. Yeah. It's like, yeah, be like, there are boundaries and stuff. You're not just going to start randomly hugging everybody you see. Like, you don't want to like violate somebody's personal space, or if that's not a thing they're comfortable with, there could be a cultural or religious component that makes it weird, whatever.
Sure.
But like, generally, like, if we know each other and you're cool and I'm cool, like, fuck it. Like, we can hug. And it's a thing that I feel like it shouldn't be a thing that anybody's worried about. And but that again, that's the level of incompetence and ignorance that we deal with in leadership and mental health and the commingling of. It's like, it just drives me absolutely apeshit, because there's so much good that could be done if these people in these positions who are charged with doing these things had the tools to do it. And they just don't. And the institution, I feel like, is wildly ignorant at the highest levels, which is why you don't see more things being, put into place or advocated for or whatever.
Right. And if you're worried whether or not someone wants a hug, you can say, hey, you look like you're having a rough day. Would you like a hug? And if they say no, you're like, okay, well, if you change your mind, I'm here.
Fist bump, bubble gum. No?
Yeah, like something.
Skittles.
But you're showing them that you are aware that they're not looking like they're having the best day.
Right.
And that goes a long way.
Yeah.
Right. And I know they talk about intrusive leadership. I'm like, just get to know them as people.
But, yeah, the intrusive leadership thing is gross, because it's like, it's almost like a recognition of the problem that exists, but they're interpreting it wrong. Like, they recognize there's a problem, but the way that they want to deal with it is like an audit or whatever, like some type of weird procedural type observation or surveillance of that person's life in detail that they have no business being a part of unless that person invites them in. And it's like, I was talking to somebody on Discord about human factors the other day. And then I talked to my buddy Dan about it. And it was like, I don't know a ton about it yet. I'm trying to get a chief that I know that is also in your community she's runs a program, is very knowledgeable on it. And she's just like not on fire about doing a podcast quite yet. And so, but I'm trying to get her to do it because I don't know anything about it. It was kind of after my time. But when Dan explained it to me in like a good enough synopsis that I feel like I sort of understand what they're trying to do. And it's like the way that I described it to him was like, I was like, yeah, like I feel like the idea and the program has potential, but it's like not in the way that they're doing it. Because the first thing I asked
about
Dan,
the Human Factors Council.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know that.
Okay.
It was initially described to me as just human factors, but yeah, Human Factors Council stuff, where it's like, and it makes it worse that you add the word council and it just compounds the casualty. But it's like for me, the idea is sound, but it's almost like they've misdiagnosed the problem, and so they're trying to apply this cold logic and procedure, and they're like, all right, let's write an instruction and make this artificial like interaction, and it's like most of the reason why, like, so like and correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I'm a novice at best at the understanding of this program, but the interaction is designed to give the sailor an opportunity to tell a chain of command when they're struggling in certain areas. And it's like, particularly mental health, right? However, most of the time, one of the primary reasons the person is struggling with mental health is their chain of command sucks, or the culture of their command sucks, or something to that effect sucks. And a lot of times, like, they were already encouraged to use their chain of command. So now we have this chain of command that is likely a large stressor in their life that is charged with like putting this program in place and interviewing them and being the intervention. And it's like, you're already a stressor. You're probably a large part of the problem, but also you have absolutely no fucking training. So it's like, none of the things that you're going to do during those encounters are going to be the things that you're supposed to be doing unless you have your own. Like, there are chiefs out there that have psychology training, right? Like, I know of one that I think they're in your community too, that either almost has or does now have their PhD. And so it's just like, you're creating this thing. And I was like, it sounds like Human Factors sounds like an individual trait block on a fucking Terminator's eval. Like, it's not.
So they're making,
you know what I mean? Go ahead. So go ahead and launch into your.
They're making it more complicated than it needs.
Yeah.
Okay. So former Simeo hat here, right?
Yeah. Ditto.
Simeo, and then they brought up Human Factors Council as I was turning over. And so, like, the people, if I remember it correctly, and I could be totally off base and someone will blast me for it, and that's fine. I've been yelled at before. So all your sensitive collaterals are usually the ones that end up having to be on us. So, like, if you've got problems, guess who's probably on there? Simeo, DAPA, suicide prevention, like, all the ones that, you know, your heavy hitters. And you're right. Like, so if the command is the problem, then they're not going to be as forthcoming, which is why I keep coming back to telling sailors you need to have a relationship with your chaplain. Not because I think you need Jesus. I mean, I think everyone does, but that's like
chaplains are dope. It's not, they're good at just talking.
And so I'm like, right. And that's why whenever I have a sailor who's definitely like in need and we're talking to them, I tell them, like, I will help you, but there are rules. You have to get help. You're either going to go see your chaplain or mental health, and or both, because I'm not a professional. I make it very clear. Like, no one on my teams are professional. We are people who care. We are here to talk to you, and we're going to get you help. But you have to do the work. And so the other ones are like, well, he just wants to, you know, Chaps just wants to talk to me about God. I'm like, of course. But like, if you tell him I'm not here to talk about God, they
usually wonn't. And they have some training. If I remember correctly, they have a significant amount of training on just counseling. Like, they do marriage counseling. They do all kinds of stuff. So
they do suicide counseling. So we'll back up to the year before I made chief, right? And I was suicidal. The Navy had shot me down again. And I was the fucking thick pawn. I had 13 years time and rate. I was like,
the thick pawn. Holy shit. You're full of fucking one-liners. This shit is too good. You're about to make me some money on t-shirts and stickers. Fuck. I'll donate to a cause on your behalf.
There you go. Fuck. Appreciate that. Oh my goodness. I'm the worst thing that could possibly happen. I'm in the office, right? And every year I would have this dream that I was not getting selected. And I'm just like, this is just my brain going nuts. And so it was shortly before results had come out in 2019. And I had the dream that I was in the office and I found out that I wasn't getting selected. Well, it's results day. I'm losing my shit for real, as you always do, right?
Yeah.
And in walks our command master chief. And he looks around and he doesn't see who he's looking for. And he goes, should we just go? And that's how I found out I didn't make chief that year. Should we just go?
That's like, it's such a perfect example of like ignorance, like just the leadership incompetence that I harp on so often is like, because he probably wasn't a bad dude. He probably wasn't there to hurt your feelings. He was just trying to get a thing done.
He had no...
He's just trying to get a thing done on his life's to-do list that day so he can go home to his family and do it. Yeah. And
destroy Jen's life. Yeah.
But but if he had the type of education that like should be required of a leader in that position, he would have the emotional intelligence to pre-plan that and be sensitive to the idea. He
had the emotional intelligence of a squirrel.
Yeah. Well, and most do though, like in his defense, because they've never been taught these things. And I really believe like, yes, some people just inherently have a higher level of emotional intelligence because of the way they were raised or their whatever context they came up in. Maybe some of it's just like biological, like, I don't know, but it can be taught.
There and it can. Yeah. Well, I'm standing there. And so I'm trying to not lose it in front because I'm the LPO at that point. And the shop just figured out that I just figured out I didn't get selected. And all of a sudden they can see it. Like there goes the spiral. And I just like grit my teeth.
Yeah.
I boot off the computer and one of the chiefs looks at me and he goes, are you okay? And I'm like, nope. And I'm leaving. Yeah. And I walked out the door. But what they didn't know is at that moment, I'm like, I can't keep like the spiral happening when you were talking about earlier. Yeah. And I was going home. I was going to go shoot myself. That was the plan. And I'm bawling. And my husband has to go play stupid reindeer games because he has people who've been selected. And I'm like, I'm going home and I'm going to go fucking shoot myself. And my husband is going, please don't leave us. Please don't leave us. And so then, he goes and calls my CMC and he's like, what did you just do to her? Yeah. She's going home to kill herself. Yeah. And he's begging me and I'm bawling. And imagine, I'm like, I'm not myself.
God, imagine being that CMC if you had gone through with it. It's like, like emotional intelligence of a squirrel or not. Was he a horrible human being? You know what I mean? Like, because that's what's so fucking irresponsible about this shit for me is that like, not only are we putting you in that position by not educating this man and giving him the tools to be better in that spot, to like the best CMC I've seen do it was he pulled all the non-selects in first, notified them, sat down and talked with them, did all that so that was out of the way. And then he'd grab the boss, CO, and him are walking around giving big bear hugs to all the selectees, or they'd make the one MC to muster the Chiefs mess or whatever. But like the thing that kills me is like, he did that to you, probably completely ignorant of the impact he had on you, probably just totally clueless. But then had you gone through with it, right? Had you successfully taken your own life, then he's got to fucking live with that because he's gonna find out based on how that happened that's what set you off. So then that guy's gonna be a fucking mess. So you know what I mean?
Well,
so then
he called me later. If you want to hear about it getting worse, he calls me that night, right? And I'm beside myself. And I said, I had already spoken to insert other chief's name there, except I use their given name because God forbid, I know that, people have real names. Yeah. So he calls me into his office the next morning and instead to see how I'm feeling, proceeds to chew me out that how dare I reference a member of his mess by their first name.
Oh, fuck off. I would have ate his face, man.
So I went to chaplain, right? So this is where the chaplain comes in because it goes back to like why the chaps are so important. Yeah. And I was just despondent. And I'm like, why have I been abandoned? Why? Yeah. Why is this happening? And he goes, no, God loves you. And I'm like, he goes, he's been warning you. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, he talks to you when you're sleeping. So like, this is my, for anyone who doesn't believe in God, you can ignore my testimony, but he's like, God talks to you when you sleep. He's been preparing you. He loves you that much. Yeah. And I just started bawling. So I'm just like, oh my God, you're right. But the counseling that comes with it, the religious side, religious aspect aside, the human level to let you just let it out. Right. And they lay the ground rules out. If you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to hurt somebody else, then we're going to tell on you. But
that's not true with chaplains. They don't they're not mandatory reporters. Like they can eat all that.
He said certain things he had to be.
Like
I don't think child abuse.
I don't know if that's true. Like so I'm not, I could be wrong. Like I did an interview with the chaps a while back. It's been a hot minute.
Right.
But they were like, if I remember correctly, they were the one that like, I don't think they have to tell. They generally do as a practice, but I want to say they're exempt from all that stuff because religion trumps everything.
And I could be wrong.
Something. I don't fucking know. Yeah, either way.
But either way, like that, it's somebody who's trained in this.
They're great. I've talked to them and yeah.
So when I have somebody who's in a bad way, it's like, I need you to talk to somebody who's trained. I'm like, I can only do so much and I'm going to help you. And I send pictures of my dogs because like everybody gets a picture of my dog Stitch to try to like lighten the mood. I'm going to break the ice. But I find them a chaplain to talk to, or we get them to mental health and or if they don't want to talk to military mental health, I get that, but they still have to go talk to someone.
And there's always a chaplain in your area on call 24/7. Like, so if they're not at work, there's a cell phone number somewhere on the internet. It might be hard to find.
And I've got one that's my favorite chaplain. I have him on retainer, Chaplain Spindle, Big Cross Chaplain Spindle. I've called him like, hey, I've got someone in need. Do you have a few minutes? And he's like, yeah, Jen, I'll take care of him.
Yep. And I know, like, I was doing my Cobb quals, like, so you do the charge book or whatever, that's the Cobb CMC quals, and you have to go talk to a chaplain as part of it. And I think that might have been when I learned about the like, we don't have to tell anybody anything. They have like absolute confidentiality unless they decide to, maybe, or they might be bound by it. I don't know. I'd have to look it up, but so don't quote me on that part. But I learned that, we
both have homework. We got to
one of the chaplains in that area. I think there was 3. And this guy was a full bird, and he was like, one of us has the cell phone at all times, and we're accessible 24/7. So it's like you may not be able to get in to see a mental health professional, even though like you could go to the emergency room, I guess, but you can always get a hold of the chaplain.
And that's what we do, though.
Yeah.
If when on our team we feel like, and it's not that we feel someone's in a bad way, but we talk about it, right?
Yeah.
So you can kind of start to gauge whether or not somebody just really needs to let some stuff out. But you ask them, like, you're going to hurt yourself. And they say, yes, like, we're scrambling. We're going to find their chain of command. We're going to get the cops. We're going to get the ambulance there. You name it. And that's what I cannot stress enough to commands is don't make that judgment call yourself. Right?
Yeah.
Just don't. If they say they're going to hurt themselves, go.
I would even say can't. Like, you're not fucking qualified, period. End of conversation.
No.
Unless you're on an aircraft carrier that has a psychologist or a psychiatrist on board, because I know they have psych people. That person can make that judgment call. But even like, and this is another I'm beyond my depth thing. I know there are mental health techs that are corpsmen. I would argue they're not qualified to make that judgment either. And I've heard a lot of stories and read threads on Reddit and all kinds of stuff about them turning sailors away. Like, you're fine. Like, who the fuck are you to say that? Like, you're not qualified to make that judgment. Yeah.
So when I get done talking to a sailor, I'm like, are you good? Are you going to hurt yourself? And they say, no. Okay. Okay. We're talking tomorrow. Do you promise? So then you have to start having those conversations. Like, we're going to have follow through.
Yeah.
Now, one of the most unsettling things is somebody who's already made up their mind that they're going to kill themselves. You're not going to know. Right.
Yeah.
There's just going to be that small group. It's like, they've made up their mind. There will be no warning signs. They're not giving anything away. That's it.
Right.
And there's nothing we can do about that.
Yeah.
But what we can do as a community and as members of society is to just have that constant engagement, right? To encourage the healthy life choices, to look out for the ones we think maybe they're drinking a little bit more than they should.
Yeah.
And we have to ask the question, are you going to hurt yourself? Because again, it comes back to, most of the time, if you ask somebody that question and they're thinking about it, they'll say yes. And if they're not, they'll be like, no, I'm fine.
Right.
And so even one of my dear friends who is going through some stuff right now, I'm like, are you going to do anything stupid? He goes, no, I'm not going to do anything stupid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my wife's done that to me. She's like,
get in the habit of asking.
She's like, if you ever think that way or whatever, you better tell me. And I'm like, I would, like, because I know like the primary reason why I would never, ever do anything like that is because of the wreckage it would leave behind, like because of how many people.
Sure, but you recognize that.
You're right.
But when you're gone,
of course,
you're not thinking about it.
100%. Yeah, and I want to rewind a little bit because I feel like I was a little too harsh in my analysis of mental health tech corpsmen. I'm just saying, they're probably forced into that position and told they have to do that. I'm not like,
well, not
I'm just
everybody's
saying
cut out for it either.
Well, but I'm just saying even whatever limited training they get is probably insufficient to deal with the scale of people that they get in there. And then they're probably pressured to like get them through. We got a line, that kind of shit. And there's only I would imagine there's only a small single digit number of psychologists / psychiatrists on an aircraft carrier. So it's not like,
but they need to get in the habit of pushing them to them. And that would hopefully drive the impetus to get more mental health providers. Well, because if they keep kicking them back and one of them ends up hurting themselves, it's like, great.
I think the best possible answer, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have more robust mental health resources, like formal ones, and then also like probably informal programs to not just educate, but just try to be like you always keep saying, to the left of all these things, where we're proactively trying to like create the sense of belonging and community and value in those people and all that. But like, when I talk about mental health quite often, I bring up, if not always, leadership incompetence to me is the primary driver of acute mental health issues in the military, particularly the Navy, because that's what I know.
Huge.
I feel like the response of we have to wildly scale up mental health resources, and there just aren't, like, the excuse you get from MCPON level people are there's just not enough people in the world that are doing this for a living. Like, no matter how many,
we have to do better as leaders.
Right. It's like if we could recruit every psychologist coming out of every university, we wouldn't have enough. And I believe that to be true. So you can't say we're doing the best we can when
which is why I brought up the 4 happiness chemicals. I'm like,
there's not enough mental health professionals in the world. But what we can do is unfuck leadership development and education and make it our number one priority in the training and development of enlisted sailors in the military. And if the way that I talk about it is, if you could get an objective quality increase in enlisted leadership of like 20%, right? That's not even where I think it should be. I think we should be way, way better than that. But I'm just saying, like, think about just like a small number, like an objective quality increase of 20%. Think about the number of problems that would solve, because it touches fucking everything, right? And so like if every chief in the Navy was 20% better at their job, and I don't mean their technical specialty necessarily, though that helps.
No, the emotional intelligence side.
Emotional intelligence, like the leadership part of it, just taking care of your people. If I could tattoo Maslow's hierarchy of needs on the left hand of fucking every chief in the Navy, I would. But like if you could get an objective quality increase in those people in those roles of 20%, it would you wouldn't need to scale up the resources. Like, I do think that a program like Warrior Toughness or a revamped rollout of human factor councils or what the fuck ever, I think those things can be productive, and they have a lot of potential to be.
You need more to than just that, though.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, the stressors that lead sailors to acute mental health issues on the scale that we have, right? It's like a lot of those would just evaporate because the stressors go away. Like, they came here knowing this shit was going to be hard. Like, they signed up for hard. They didn't sign up for unfucking bearable. They didn't sign up for being dehumanized and treated like they're fucking disposable. Well, because
I would tell you, like, they didn't grow up in Gen X like I did. We lived on that. And that's just the running joke of like why Gen X is just such a group of aliens, because it's like, whatever, come at me, I don't care. But I mean, all kidding aside, we had to learn those coping skills. We're the latchkey kids. We had to learn how to adapt and overcome, and their coping skills are something that people are struggling with a lot right now.
Right.
And so it's trying to teach people how to fail. Like, it's okay to fail. You just can't stay on your ass. Yeah. And so it's changing that mentality of, I have to have it right now. No, you don't. I failed. It's all over. No, it's not.
Right.
And it starts at the beginning. So this generation is different. I'm not going to say it's better or worse and different. It's just different. And we have to be able to help them be better at coping.
I think a lot of times the generational thing is misinterpreted in that like present generation, probably, I don't know, Gen X or Z or whatever the fuck is primarily the Chiefs mess, right? So
probably, I think millennials and Z now.
Yeah,
I'm 44.
Yeah, I'm 40, so I'm like barely Gen X, I think.
You're a millennial, man. It's too late.
Whatever the fuck. Yeah, whatever. They're all bullshit anyway. But my point is, the current generation looks at the new generation as if they're worse than they are, right? When in reality, that generation is not equipped to evaluate that the new generation is actually better, smarter, faster. Because
the values are different.
Because they're different, right? Yeah, because they're different, they misinterpret it as worse.
Right.
And it's like, these kids
it's just
are
different.
so goddamn smart. It blows my fucking mind. The conversations I've had on this podcast, even just like I remember I forget the name of the episode, but I had a Greenside Corpsman on. He was like a seaman. And this kid was articulate, smart as fuck.
Smart.
Like, yeah, it was incredible. I felt like I was talking to like an officer or a first class or a chief or something. I mean, even better, right? Like, I mean, the kid was fucking smart. And it's like, the more I interact with these people, the more I'm just like, nah, man, you got it backwards. The potential in this generation is far beyond us. You just have...
It's on us to help toughen them up on things that they haven't had to go through.
Right. You just have to teach them all the tools and pass down the lessons and develop them and educate them. But then the rub is these people were never given the tools to do that properly. And so you just have this like catch-22 of like...
Self-licking stamp.
Yeah. Self-licking stamp.
It's true though.
Another one-liner.
Keeps going. And so my husband, these are all my husband's fault. They wear off on me. I am not.
They're good.
My husband's hilarious.
High five your husband because they're fucking awesome.
Yeah. So Brian's the funny one, and he's got this deadpan expression because he'll be like, "It's not fucking rocket surgery," and then everyone's like, "What did you just say?" He's got these mixed metaphors on purpose.
Yeah, it's like my favorite mixed metaphor is from Boondock Saints, where he goes, "Why don't you make like a tree and get the fuck out of here?" And they're just like, "What?"
He says it. Yeah. What? Some of them are mine. Most of them I steal from Brian. Like disclosure, I'm not funny. But yeah, we as a Navy have to do better with emotional intelligence, and then you have to get past some of the dinosaurs that are sitting there like, that means you're soft. I'm like, no, it's understanding how the brain works and how to adapt and overcome. We talk about that. Here's the aircrew side of me. A million years ago, I was aircrew. We had CRM, and part of it is adaptability and flexibility. Like, how do you adapt and overcome to difficult situations?
Right.
And I'll tell you, like, having gone to SEER school, you learn just how tough you really are and that you can handle anything. So maybe we just got to send everyone out into the woods and beat the crap out of them. Like, I don't know what the right answer is.
I don't know about that, but I think it does teach
resiliency.
There for sure. And that's part of the warrior toughness thing, but there are for sure ways to build resiliency into people. But I feel like the current generation of enlisted leadership and even the wardroom, they look at them like, oh, well, they just need to be more resilient. It's like, yeah, or
you can't just buy that at Costco.
Well, no, what I'm saying is like, maybe they don't need to be more resilient. Like, sure, we need to teach more tools and all that kind of stuff, which I think we're kind of doing, like with the warrior toughness thing. I don't know how widespread that is or how effective it is, but I don't know. Maybe they're just getting so crushed by your lack of leadership competence and emotional intelligence that if you unfuck yourself, they wouldn't need to be more resilient. They'd be fine. Maybe.
And when
worth a shot.
When you beat somebody into the ground and you drive mission to the point where you have ground your team into nothing,
exactly.
Then there's nothing left.
Yep.
And so the Navy's mentality of do more with less, and it's like, nope, we're just going to kill people. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, dude, I just read, so I just finished a couple books. I read Captain Crozier's book, The Surf All You Can or whatever, and he had some stories in there.
I love that man.
I've been trying to get him on the podcast, and I don't remember if he full on agreed. He kind of said he was down. But I was talking to him on LinkedIn, and then he just kind of stopped responding. It happens. People get busy, whatever. But
he might be overwhelmed.
Yeah, if anybody's got a line to him, like, I'd love to talk to him. And I even said, like, I think he might have said, wait till the book comes out, because then he can make it like a book thing too, which I'm fine with.
Okay.
Like, it's a great book, but
yeah,
he was talking
everybody
about,
needs to make money, man.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. Hey, hit me up. I'll do it. I'll promote your book. I'm down because it's a great book. But he talked about that quite a bit. Like, a lot of his examples in the book were in the vein of emotional intelligence and just taking care of your people and letting them know you care and letting them know it's okay to fail and all the things we've talked about. But then I just finished a book called The Culture Code that a listener suggested to me forever ago. And I'm just not, for a long time, I just kind of have not been reading. I was listening to some audiobooks, but I'd kind of flip through.
I tell everyone I can't read because my ADHD. I'm like, I can't read.
That's kind of because of my anxiety and just everything that was going on. I had a hard time focusing. I have a lot of sleep issues too. So it was like, I would start reading. I get 3 pages in and want to go to sleep. But now, like,
what did I just read? I forgot it all.
It's been part of my like sleep routine now is reading, and I've blown through like 3 books in the last week. And so like I went through I finished The Culture Code finally. And that book is like a must read. Like, it's incredible.
I'll put it on my Audible list.
And it's the type of book that answers almost all these questions. And it's hilarious because one of the communities that they consistently reference, among a bunch of other civilian circled ones, are SEAL teams, right? And it's the way in which they build teams and install value into their people and rally around each other, and how like vast, like within a team, a lot of like rank is just kind of discarded and everybody's just on the team. And there's positions where they're in charge and stuff, but like, and there's that functionality, but like everybody's calling each other by their first names and stuff. And
I could attest to that. I might have done a thing or two with them.
Yeah. So I've talked so Dan is a Naval Special Warfare tech, and he's taught me more, because I'm down. If I have any SEALs listening, I would love to talk to one of them just to learn more about the community and how leadership is done there. I know a guy.
I'll send him your way.
Oh yeah, that'd be dope, because like it just hasn't happened. Like, I've talked to an EOD dude. I don't think I've talked to a SWIC dude. But anyway, like, I'm interested in the leadership side of it primarily because I'm a big Jocko fan. I've listened to him talk about it, and the team guys that he has on talk about it. And then I've listened to a few other dudes. Like, I'm a Jack Carr fan and of his books. And anyway, but so
in Admiral McRaven's thing, right?
Oh God, I've read every one of his books, and
All right, so the first
I did
a
research paper on him for school.
What's the first thing he say you got to do?
Make your bed.
Make your bed. So that's completing a task.
I like the sugar
which is
cookie
dopamine
thing.
The reward.
Yeah,
I do
like
too.
The sugar
but we'll
thing.
circle back. It's hilarious, but it's the reward chemical. You've completed a task.
Yeah, yeah.
It is. It circles right back.
It's a thing. Yeah, no, it's a thing for sure.
Do a task.
Even if it's something simple. Yeah, like it. I'm a big fan of The Culture Code because it calls out so many things that are common amongst all these successful teams. And he draws this line across like a bunch of different civilian organizations that are just wildly different in so many ways. But they're when you break down what they're doing to be successful as teams, it's the same thing. Like, and SEALs are one of the examples, and it's the same thing. Like, and it's like, why aren't we doing this everywhere? And so like that book's incredible. I'm going to do a bunch of podcasts on it and stuff, but good God, like
The Culture Code. I'm writing this down.
It's a great illustration, like where he kind of pulls it all together in a great way. It's a great illustration of why these things are so important, like why emotional intelligence is so important, why like installing a sense of belonging is so important, why what the Navy would call over communicating is so important, which I hate that fucking word, just like I hate intrusive
leadership. But this circles back to exactly what I said in the beginning. You didn't get that sense of belonging in 2020 for these guys that came in. So you get this whole group that feel broken and disconnected. And you wonder why you have sailors right now who are not, they're dysfunctional.
Yep.
And I mean, some of it's their fault, for the ones that are just like, fuck you, I'm not going to do my job. And then there's ones it's like inherently, it's just, they came into a broken system.
The thing that blows my mind the most is that's a pretty short book. And what I got out of it was like, and it's not a new book. Like, it's within probably the last 6 years, I would guess. I'd have to look. But like, the thing that struck me so hard was the answers are out there and readily available. Why the fuck are we not listening to all these smart kids? You know what I mean? Like, Simon Sinek's done a bunch of work with the military, and I'm not like a huge Simon Sinek fan. Like, his stuff's pretty good. Some of the videos I've watched, I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. But I have this programming that prevent me from getting super deep on guy, because he's not like he's never done it as far as I can tell. Like, and I have this thing, it's a stupid analogy, but like I heard Mark Wahlberg say one time that I don't take fitness advice from somebody that's not in better shape than me. And that's kind of the way that I view most things, even though I'm obviously open to listening to leadership things from other people that weren't in the military. But like, yeah, I feel like you kind of had to have done it and been successful-ish, you know, for me to be able to take you seriously. Unless he was like, if he was just a doctor of something and doing research, okay, that like I'm in on like paying attention to that, even though I am always a little more skeptical of that than I am somebody who's actually done it, because it's easy to like do research and come to conclusions having never been in a real leadership position in your life and come to conclusions that it's like, okay, that sounds nice, but it's bullshit when you try to apply it. So that's like, for him, I'm a little like iffy, but he's done a ton of work with the military and he's got some pretty smart things to say. And so there's all these people out there that are ready and willing to like teach and help and whatever, like give Echelon Front a fucking government contract, like just Jocko's leadership consulting firm.
Yeah.
Like, and they'll fix it in like a week. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, fuck. And it's just like, I don't understand why the institution hasn't just been like, hey, Jocko, come on, fuck this. Or, hey, whoever, like, or assemble a team or whatever, you know, like.
You'll laugh. You might laugh at this. Maybe not. So, where I got a lot of my emotional intelligence training and for leadership, because I tell everyone, like, I'm the okayest chief ever. Like, but I learned a lot about emotional intelligence and leadership through Boy Scouts. So I am a Scoutmaster. I used to be a Cub Master, but I went through the Boy Scouts leadership training called Wood Badge. And so you had to learn about communication, conflict resolution, things like that. And you had to give all these presentations and really start to understand it, because, you know, I'm dealing with these kids. They're like adolescents. So they're all just like, wow, hormones, and try to get them to not freak out. And I took a lot that I learned there and applied it at work. Because again, you know, it's like sailoring, like leading sailors is just more curse words than leading kids.
Yeah.
And it's amazing when you listen to what they're saying, you understand what they're trying to say, and you're able to diffuse conflict. It goes along with, like, that's huge for leadership. And we've got ones who they're not listening, they're not effectively communicating. So you don't know that what you've said has actually been received the way it needs to be received. And all I hear is like, man, Chief's a dick. And they're not fucking listening to me.
They're not like that. That's what, your example earlier of him focusing on the fact that you called some chief by their first name and how dare you, like, are you fucking stupid? Like,
couldn't make this shit up.
And I get, like, I am probably too generous on the, like, the institution didn't prepare him, he's incompetent, it's not all his fault kind of thing. But it's like, when stuff like that's happening on such a routine basis, the only thing I can come up with is it goes all the way to the tippy top. Like, they're all this way, you know? And one of the examples, even though it's not, you know, it's not like a smoking gun, but one of the examples I use a lot is I have a degree in organizational leadership that I was just doing a bachelor's degree so that I had a bachelor's degree when I retired for like getting a job or whatever. So just like, yep, I got a degree.
There you go.
Yeah. And it wasn't terrible. Like, it was all online. But I did a assignment or paper on something. And I read this letter from Rear Admiral Howe when he was the commandant of the War College. And he wrote this letter. And in the letter, among other things, he states that he had these, like, he had these revelations. And I think it was the first one, but one of them was leadership is the most important thing. And what struck me was not that he had that recognition, but that he is finishing his tenure as the commandant of the fucking War College, post major command, probably 30 years into his fucking career. And he's just now having the revelation that leadership is the most important thing, which to me is a very vivid, though, you know, like anecdotal, I guess, expression of
indictment on the system.
Holy shit, we have a problem. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Because I had a conversation with my man Ellison from Test Depth and the Only on the Midwatch podcast. He's a submarine vet. About he asked me a question to the effect of like, what things would you delete it to accommodate more robust leadership development and education? And I'm like, fucking everything. I would delete everything before I took anything away from leadership development and education. He's like, whoa, that's a bold statement. I'm like, is it though? Because like, while I think the schools and the trainers and all the things that we have that make us better, like more tactically proficient, more capable of fighting the ship and all those things, I think they're very important. And I think that it's great to be able to go into a fire trainer and fight a fake fire in like a controlled environment. Like, not that it doesn't have some danger, but it's a controlled environment. It's
real.
Yeah, right. But what I'm saying though is I can teach you how to fight a fire and do just mad fire drills on the submarine at sea. And we do constantly. So it's like, those things are nice, but I would delete that in a fucking heartbeat if I could get robust leadership development and education, just brick and mortar fucking NCO academies at every major fleet concentration areas. And he wanted me to
the Navy comes out with
Yeah, he wanted me to defend it. No, I'm just saying he wanted me to defend it because he's like, oh, that's a hot take. I'm like, I don't think it is. Because when I can teach you everything that I need to teach you otherwise on the warfare platform that we're putting into, like, we're putting it out to sea or on deployment, or that we're applying to do the mission, it's like, and it's not always true, right? Like, SEALs need to run and gun with little paint squibs or whatever the fuck in a mount site and do what they do in that way. But and have people, have people watch them and whatever, right? But I can train how I fight on a submarine at sea. End of conversation. It's really nice to have the safety. Like, we have this crazy trainer that's like mounted on these hydraulics that moves around and does everything. It looks just like the control room of a submarine. So we can go in there and simulate all these casualties, and it behaves just like a submarine would, and makes the alarms and the indications and everything. It's very realistic, and it's incredible because I can't kill everybody if I fuck up. It's great. It's very valuable. But
bonus.
I can also do that on a submarine, and it's relatively safe outside of the inherent danger that is just submarining,
sinking the submarine.
I'm talking to him. I'm like, dude, like, it's more important than everything, but nobody seems to recognize that fact. And I'm not saying Ellison didn't. He just was like, whoa, like, that's extreme. But like, yeah, it's just like,
add to it,
man. Go ahead.
What we're lacking the most here in things that you cannot teach give a shit, right? You cannot teach.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true.
You can encourage and you can promote, but that comes from inside.
Define give a shit.
Worthless.
Like, what do you? So, how do you view it?
Let's say you're having a bad day, right? Like, we're going to go back to like giving somebody a hug, and they're like, no, I'm not going to give that person a hug. Fuck that, because I'm in the Navy and we don't hug people. You're missing the give a shit right there. Like, the other person needs that human connection.
If you have a culture of, because this is my theory on that kind of stuff. Like, the example you gave, it's like every Chiefs mess I've ever been in, it's like National Geographic. It's like the National Geographic channel, right? People,
they're nuts.
Adapt to their surroundings. Like, this is what we're doing. Okay, I'll do that, right?
Yeah,
so there's this herd mentality.
The flies, then pig
right.
screwed.
But what I'm saying is, if we created a culture where it was completely okay to give that sailor a hug, and not just that it's okay, but that's kind of part of our identity, is we take care of our people.
There,
I know, I agree with you, but I'm just saying
we have to. So
you're right. We could teach it.
Maybe it's not teach give a shit.
Yeah,
we have to change the culture so where people are more in tune with that human level, and you can still be in the Navy, and you can still be a leader. And leaders 100%. Actually care, because it sucks when you have to get that phone call and it's like, your sailor's dead.
Well, and to me, obviously the worst part is the sailor's dead, but if that was me, which thank God, like, I've had people I worked with take their own life, like people I know, but like, it's never been a sailor that directly worked for me where I would have felt like culpability. I would have been like, it would have fucking wrecked me. But luckily, or because I put so much work in, or both, I guess, is my sailors knew they could call me. And that would be what would crush me, is that sailor didn't feel like they could call me in that moment and didn't, and then took their own life. And so to me, that's like the most illustrative scenario you could paint for why this shit is so important is like, most chiefs, if you ask them, would say, oh yeah, they totally call me. It's like, yeah, but would they though? And then if you went and asked their sailors, I feel like most of their sailors would be like, fuck no, I'm not calling him chief. Like, that's the last person I would call. He doesn't give a fuck.
So, and that's how
she doesn't give a fuck.
My team
you know
gets
what I mean?
these phone calls because we sit in Discord, we're coking and joking with them,
right?
Showing them we're real people. And like, oh hey, yeah,
you're just humanizing yourself. That's all that's happening.
That's it.
So now because people would act like it was a high bar, or that was like it takes a lot of time to do that. I'm like, bullshit. I would go down on submarines where I'm the scary master chief that's there to give them their SMI. Everybody's on their best behavior, wearing their Sunday's best. Everything is packaged for my consumption at that point. I would walk down on the submarine, drop my shit, go directly to the galley. Walk in, roll my sleeves up, wash my hands, start coking and joking. It took me about 30 seconds to disarm those kids before they were telling me their deepest, darkest secrets. So it's just like...
It's no different than the basket of candy
bullshit.
to grab a sailor.
Yeah. All I did was establish who I am and what's okay. Immediately. I walked in there. It's okay to talk to this master. This dude's cool. It's okay to talk to him. You're projecting. That's one of the big things in the culture code. I'm just projecting to them that it's safe. This is safe. You can do whatever you want in here, and I'm not going to give a fuck.
Right.
You could call me by my first name, and I wouldn't correct you. I don't care.
It doesn't mean you're not going to hold them accountable if they do what they're not supposed to do.
I'm still doing the inspection, but there's no reason we can't have a good time. Let's go. I want to disarm them. I want them to relax. I want them to do their job because they're going to do better when they're not like on edge. Right. I want them to do well, but I also want to see them do it when they're not like trying to pretend they're like this, like they're doing everything right all the time and they're perfect and whatever.
Right.
Like I want to disarm them so they'll relax, and then maybe I'll see more of what happens on a daily basis, which may be good or not. But then also, I don't want them to
identify flaws to help.
But also, and then on top of that, like when they get back to home port, like I'm a resource. I want you to reach out to me for training, for questions, for help, for whatever. And so I don't want you to be intimidated by me or afraid of me. And it's like, and that's the thing about chiefs that probably, it's up there on the list. I don't know. But like, it's one of those things that drives me the most nuts is this idea that you have to have this like persona, like your CMC shitting on you about the first name thing. It's like, how insecure are you in your authority and in your position and just mentally in general? If that's the thing you have to worry about, it's like, I was the opposite. Like I would go out of my way to disarm people, tell them to calm down, chill out. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Like you don't have to call me Master Chief every single time. Like relax. Because I know I'm a Master Chief. I don't need to flex on anybody. And if I'm doing it correctly, they're going to have this deference and like level of respect for me and trust in me that that's just going to happen by virtue of me being a good leader. So like, I don't have to enforce it. I don't have to remind them of my legitimate authority. Like it's ever present. It's sewn on my fucking collar, like, or pinned or whatever.
Like I'm not wearing anchors on my panties. My name is Jen. Like,
it's right here, dude. Like, it's right here on my collar. I don't need to project that because they can see it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, and you always have the capacity to rein it in. That tool's always in your tool belt. Yes. Like if they cross a line or get too familiar or whatever, it's super easy to remind them that I'm a Master Chief. But I don't need to get that tool out almost ever if I'm doing it right. But that's a competency that we need to educate people on and whatever. But yeah.
Now, I wanted to share something with you which might break your brain. And I challenge everybody that's going to, listen and see this. Okay. I want you to Google U.S. Navy suicide prevention and see what is not the first hit.
So I use DuckDuckGo. Is that okay for this exercise?
I don't care. Google is a verb.
U.S. Navy suicide prevention. Bazinga. I got suicide prevention, my Navy HR link.
Okay. So I've got Veterans Crisis Line, which is good. Well, you're lucky. I guess it's your search engine, but the problem is
DuckDuckGo is unbiased, supposedly. I don't know.
Okay.
That's why I use it.
What we have encountered here is that there's not a whole lot of information on here to be helpful.
Okay.
And what Grant did is he actually built a wonderful website to give to the Navy. And unfortunately, the Navy has not taken it yet.
Is it live?
And we're hoping that...
Can I go to it?
I don't. No. He was going to give it to them to put up there, right? To display. Because this was just such a... When you come to this page... You look at suicide prevention, like there's not a lot there.
Yeah. It's fucking...
Really, there's not a lot there.
It's all programmatic. It's all like... it's almost like a PR thing. Like the way that they roll out all this shit, it's that one, they're addressing a symptom of a problem almost always. And then two, it's like this very sanitary, robotic, fucking programmatic approach, like we talked about with the Human Factors Council.
Google that exact phrase to get there, right? Now, when you look at where it's located, it's under My Navy HR, support and services, culture and resilience, suicide prevention. So if I didn't Google it, and I'm just
I got to go through like 5 links to get there. Yeah. I wonder.
I need the Navy to put this front and center.
Yeah. I wonder. I want to go.
It needs to be front and center.
Navy HR. Not that anybody's going to start at My Navy HR to begin with, but so I'm on their page.
You can't find
the
it on
first
here
thing's talking about PRT shit. There's a bunch of links. Go down to the bottom. No. Yeah. There's nothing front and center. Like the word suicide's not even on the first page. The Navy needs to put like this suicide prevention or anything.
Correct.
Interesting.
So this is where we are challenging the Navy to do better.
Yeah. That's pretty not great.
Seriously.
Yeah. So
I'm hoping that they'll take Grant's layout that he came up with and run with it, because it has a ton of resources.
Yeah. I mean, fuck, send it to me. I'll put it on my website. I like whatever in lieu
I'll
of.
Get Grant to send it to you.
It might get him blacklisted because I'm not.
You can't get Grant any more blacklisted.
I was going to say I'm not very popular in the halls of the Pentagon. But anyway, like I don't give a flying fuck, and I'll make that website go live as soon as he sends it to me. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, he's working right now.
All right,
but the
and then that way we can.
Is that the Navy has to do this.
We can even do a short URL or something, and we'll figure it out. So that way you guys can like blast it out to people, and it'll be the hub for, you know what I mean? That way they just have somewhere to land. I'm happy to do it if Grant wants to.
Okay. I don't know if if it's the actual website or if he just built like the landing page with all the resources. I'll see whatever it was.
Whatever. However I can help. If Grant wants to do it himself, whatever. I'm in to help if I can, and if that aligns with what your goals are and stuff.
He offered it to current MCPON, who declined.
Yeah, well, fuck him. I got you, fam. Let's go.
So we're hoping that we get a change of mindset up at Big Navy.
That's like what that's kind of my like mission statement almost nowadays. It's like the leadership development education is always number one, but then like I started it when I recognized a problem that the Navy wasn't filling, right? And I was like, okay, I can do something about this. And it was only at the beginning, I was only focused on junior CSs. And then I was like, okay, but I'm getting all these questions from prior students. I can create a resource that doesn't mean I have to respond to them every single time, so that I can just force multiply myself, and they can access it whenever they want, wherever they are. But then I was like, well, it stands to reason if these CSs are all having these same problems, then every other junior sailor in the Navy is very likely having similar problems. But then it morphed into this thing where I would say probably 60% of my listeners are E6 and above. So then I was like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't see that coming, even though it's logical when I like look at it now. But
because they're like, oh, who's talking shit?
Well, I grew up with the podcast too, right? So I started it in 2013. So I was like God damn, am I 10 years in it? No, it was later than that. I think it was 2016. But anyway, it's been like 8 years. I was a chief, right? So I'd been a chief for a while, but I was, just chief. And then I made senior chief, and then I made master chief. So like I grew along with it. So did my influence, understanding, maturity, all those things. So then as I grew with it, I think the audience kind of grew like in its, like the demographic expanded basically. But, but also like I want to, if there's something the Navy's not doing that I can do, especially now that I'm outside of it and I have free reign to do whatever the fuck I want. So like stuff like this, like, okay, you tried to do it that way. You tried to get the institution to do it and they are not interested. Fuck them. Let's go around them. Let's go through them. Let's go over them, whatever. Like if we can do it, like, because I was going to ask you, like, have you and Grant ever gone down like the thought experiment, or literally like gone down the road of like, let's form a nonprofit, let's do this, let's do that, especially now that you're on your way out to retirement and then he's already out. So like, have you guys ever thought about
that's a good idea,
something like that? Yeah.
We've been just doing this all volunteer force, and I'll put the shameless plug out there that if you have emotional intelligence and want to help, please message me.
I'm going to put you in contact
Discord
with a few people too that I think would be valuable resources, but I don't want to blast their names out now, but I have
that's
thoughts.
fine. But anything we can do to stop this, because I'm like 22 a day is still too much. I'm like, so our motto for a while there was like, until there's none.
Right.
We care so much, and we want Big Navy to actually care instead of just the platitudes. Like, oh, here, 5 layers deep on the website on AVHR, something about suicide prevention. Like, it needs to be loud. They
take it about as seriously as like a clothing vendor takes their fucking return policy. Like, you got to go looking for it, and that's what. It shouldn't fucking be that way. Like, this shit, it's obviously a problem that's not going away and is getting progressively worse, especially now that the context is this hellscape of manning and retention that's just exacerbating every other problem we've always had. It's just like, this isn't going to get any better anytime soon unless they start really taking a round turn on it and being proactive.
They do. They have to take a much deeper look at what the problem is, and the problem is the leaders for the most part. Yes, you're going to have the other reasons, like relationship issues is a big one. We're not gonna be able to control that, but we have to be able to be
that's never gonna go away.
Be that support.
Right. There's a certain level of like mental health stress that's always going to exist because it's fucking just part of what we do. And that's is what it is. Like, people are always going to be going into combat. People are always going to be in casualties. People are always going to, like, ship collisions, fuck, you name it, sexual assault. There's always going to be trauma and scar tissue. Like, no one gets out of this thing unscathed. But like, that's kind of what I was saying earlier with the, like, they know what they signed up for. I don't think sexual assault qualifies as they know what they signed up for. It's hard. But my point...
Yeah, I didn't ask for it, but it was like a bonus feature, I guess.
But my point being...
Sorry, I don't take that lightly.
My point being that there's just certain things that'll never go away. And a large part of that is just the inherent stress that is being in the military. Like, it's dangerous, it's hard, it's long hours, it's whatever. But they know about the majority of that. They signed up for and accept the majority of that. Right. So, like,
but we as leaders, it's incumbent upon us to take that extra step to go and be like, all right, this sucks, but it's going to suck and we're going to do it together.
Right.
And that's where these soft techniques come in of like remembering they're human, and how was your weekend, and do you want some candy, and maybe we should bring a dog in here so you can play with them, and let's go get some fresh air for a little bit because maybe y'all haven't seen the sun today. Little things that are scientifically backed that will help people feel better.
And there's like interventions that leaders can take that, like, the one I always used to do was drink runs. And my supply officer, sometimes she would like run to McDonald's and come back with just a sack of burgers and fries when we're in the middle of like a 14-hour food load and just like everybody's super stressed out.
Hungry,
like when I would,
bitchy.
when I'd feel that happening, I'm just like, hey, I'll be back in like 20 minutes. Cause it's a hike. Like, the way the base here is set up, because they're nuclear missile submarines, allegedly. So there's like, it's your upper base, you're
a little bit of security.
A little bit. Yeah. So like from upper base, like from where like the mini mart is or the Navy Exchange, it's legitimately going to take you 20 minutes to get to the brow. Like where
so things that,
so it's like I leave, go, come back, park, go down to the boat, and then I got a sack full of everybody's favorite whatever, energy drink, tea, soda.
Right. And you can like start planning for that. If you're smart as a leader, you can start planning for that sort of stuff in advance, right? If you're looking, you're like, okay, I know that coming up we're going to have this shit that's going to happen. Maybe that's the day that I bring in brownies or whatever. Or you plan as a group. Like, I'm not trying to push mandatory fun because not everybody's down for it. But if you're like, hey, we know we're going to have a long haul. So if everybody brings like their favorite thing to share that day, we can break for a bit, eat some snacks, get our levels back up and get back to work. Or like you're saying, come back in with something for everybody to show that you care. And it goes a long way just to not drive your people into the ground, because when their tank is empty, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
and no wonder they're feeling like crap and sad, because the other part to remember is that it's pain. So if they're physically hurting, your stress level goes up, your stress level goes up, your anxiety goes up, and then it's just like you can't break the loop.
Yeah, it's like a doom
and so
cycle.
You have to find a way to get something to stop.
Yeah. So tell me, like, as we wrap this thing up, tell me like so that you have like all the things that you have. So like you and Grant have this informal collab going on. Where are the places that people can go to find like the an ability to like vent, like access all the people that are involved, talk, maybe shoot up a flare or whatever? Like where are all the places they can go?
So we sit on the Navy's Discord, and I will have to look up what that is because I don't have that committed to memory of what the
the
is,
hyperlink. You can just send me that Discord link and I'll put it in the show notes so people can access it.
Yep, I can do that. So inside there's going to be all these different channels, like 1MC, and you know, there's the venting channel, and there's the mental health here one, and so that's where Lifeline predominantly will sit.
Okay.
But as I sit on the server, let's see what my nickname on there is. Jenny Bop, because that's what my best friend used to call me. So if you're looking on the Navy Discord for Jenny Bop, that's me. Okay. And we have our names are all in red if you're on Lifeline, so you can instantly tag
so you
and
know
see
who they
who's
are.
going to help you.
Okay, I got you.
Right, so you know who they are. And when you look at the members list on Discord, as I'm pulling this up to look at it, right now there are 8 people on the Lifeline to help list for Lifeline coordination. And I've got Corman on there, I've got some yeomen. I mean, it's just got a variation, and they're all volunteers.
Okay.
And you know, you will see a rank identifier on there. I don't want you to chief me, because if you do, I'm going to still tell you just to call me Jen. But we are all here to help you. And if you are someone listening that wants to get involved, please do.
For sure.
I can be found I'm on the Book of Faces. So I'm easy to find. On Facebook, you should see 2 accounts, because one's my primary and the other one is for when I get zucked and I get my first profile locked up because they don't like me.
That's funny.
Yeah, my backup profile. So there should be a picture like of my dog, and then of me pointing at my stupid face, and for the other one. But either way, you're gonna find me. Okay. We have posted our phone numbers on Discord. Like we are very open about this. Okay. We want to talk to you.
That's dope. Yeah. And
we don't want you hurting. And if you're not comfortable talking to me, I got other people.
Right. Yeah. And send me all the things that you're willing to share. I'll put every single link in the show notes. So you just got to go to details on whatever you're listening to it on, and it'll all be there. So, and then if people we
just want people to know they're not alone.
Yeah. 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 For sure. All. And those things are really valuable. Like even just the regular, like I've noticed like the regular Discord servers, or like I have a Discord server, and within the just the main general channel, like the other day I was just watching this discourse happen, and I was just like, man, I'm really proud of what's happening in here. And like that, even when it gets contentious, you guys are being pretty fair and working it out and having good conversations. We're trying to see how the other side sees it and all that. And then also, like when I said that, one of the chiefs that's in there, he's like, man, I love this, because within my mess, people aren't willing to have these types of conversations. So it's nice to have a place to go and talk about this stuff. And it's just like, even just that function, I feel like is a stress reducer and an anxiety reducer, because you just get to like get those things out and have the conversation and not be alone in thinking these things or having a problem with what's going on or whatever. Like it's super valuable just being in the main Navy Discord, or they have a million channels on the Navy Discord, and then I have mine, and there's there's a myriad of others. There's Reddit. There's all these functions where you can kind of get in there and just get it all out, man. And like it's a great platform for finding like-minded people that are willing to listen and have that conversation with you, and kind of sometimes just commiserate and empathize and stuff. But yeah, I think it's super, super valuable.
We do have some ground rules. We tell them like, suicide's not a joke. I'm not going to tolerate anyone making jokes about suicide.
Right.
We're not going to go and knock anybody for saying they're not feeling good. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like where the angry mom voice comes out. I'm like, hell no, we're not doing this. It can be as public or private as you need. If you want to DM one of us, that's fine. And what we as a team are going to do, we're going to talk you through this, right? And we're going to look and just see where your head's at. And we're going to ask the hard question. Yeah. And I just, again, cannot stress enough. I know I've said it. I'm going to keep saying it, but I really need commands out there to just respond immediately, right? Don't analyze what they're doing. If they say they're thinking about hurting themselves, don't talk them out of it. Yeah. Just take them to go get help.
Well, yeah, because it's like, imagine, oh God, my stupid chair's broken and it keeps sinking. It's like you, what if you're wrong? It's like one of those things where it's like, it's just such a high cost that it's like, what if you're wrong? So just don't
and
give
even if
yourself
this
that
person
opportunity.
has cried wolf, who cares?
Yeah,
Just
let
take
the
him
mental
in,
health
because here's
professional
what's
say
going to
they're
happen.
crying wolf. Let that be the person
right. And
that
and here's the thing: is like,
yeah,
they'll chapter themselves out. They will get themselves removed from the Navy on their own if they're faking.
Yeah. The other thing,
process work.
Yeah, the other thing I'll shout out as a resource too is I mentioned a couple times with Project Refit. It's their site is projectrefit.us, and if you go there, they do, I think it's 2 weekly Zooms where they call them radio checks, I think, because he's Army vet, so you know some Army terminology there. But it's a group of like wildly varying veterans and active duty service members. There's some police officers and first responders. And it's just this Zoom call where a bunch of people get together. One of them is broadcasted live on the website one of the days. The other one is completely private. And it's just a place to go find a community to vent to. And it's like the combating isolation thing. So it's like, that's another resource. If people just want to talk, and they're not mental health providers, nobody's counseling or diagnosing. They're just like talking. They're just like, hey, come talk. And almost all of them have lived experience with mental health stuff. And so it's like, I've done it several times when I was having a hard time.
That's cool.
I found it productive. So it's like, that's another resource out there that like, I highly recommend leveraging. It's like his nonprofit Project Refit has that resource available. So.
.us, got it.
And I'll send you.
And the other thing to tell people, perfect. The other thing I tell people is like, if you notice someone's just going through some shit, it takes no time at all to send them a message and be like, hey man, buddy, check, you all right?
Yeah. 100%. I do that just a lot with just
I buddy check everybody
with the homies from the podcast and all that kind of stuff. I just check in, and it's not even like all right, are you all right? It's just like periodically like, hey, how you been? Like, what's going on? What are you been up to? And then just letting them know that I'm here and I'm thinking about them and whatever. And it gives them that, it opens the door for them where they don't even have to go through the anxiety of contacting me, you know? And it's like, I find a lot of times that's when people will open up. It's like, I'll go check on them and they'll be like, nah, actually I'm not doing great. And here's why and whatever. Right. And I've had that happen where I've like jumped on the phone with people like I was in the middle of like rebuilding my porch or something because the wood was rotted out. And I like got on the phone for an hour with this dude about what was going on in his life. Cause it's just like, he needs somebody to talk to. And it's like, those are the times where it's like, he'll shoot a message. I'm like, what's going on, man? And then I'm not doing great. And then it's like, all right, call me right now. Like I'm outside sweating my ass off, like knee deep in this project. And I just put my tools down and talk to him on the phone.
Well, because I mean, the wood's already rotted. It's not going to
it's not going to, you know, nothing's on fire. We're fine. So it's way more important to do that.
Take
but
care
also,
of each other.
Yeah. Opening it up.
Love each other.
Yep. Squidlets.
I mean, all the squidlets. I
love that term. I'm making stickers. I already got the t-shirt ideas are already like going on. So, all right.
I was at A school and, you know, I was a first class with all these baby sailors.
Yeah.
And at first I couldn't understand, like, why won't they talk to me? And my leading seaman, who was my age, because he went through buds and got hurt and everything. But he's like, they just went through boot camp and got yelled at by a first class. You're scary. I'm like,
they're terrified.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm like, come on, Squidlets, let's go.
It's amazing. Well, thanks so much for doing this. I had a good time.
Thank you. This
informative.
has been a very positive outlet for us, especially for me, because, like I said, the bad encounter with the unnamed ship was my drive. I'm like, I'm going to talk to D-Guts because I need to channel this into something healthy.
That's what we're here for. I'm happy to amplify the message, give a megaphone to people that are in those positions. Like that's
love it.
One of the points. So like, I'm super glad we were able to do it.
Now watch, maybe you'll hold up my retirement and yell at me or something. I'm like, I'm going to have to smoke pot like right before.
They wouldn't do that because then I'd go in on him for that too. And he doesn't want any more podcasts that say MCPON memo or anything to that effect.
No, we want MCPON to take our message of suicide prevention and put it on the front page.
100%. And, you know, like hopefully this helps, but I don't.
Yep.
Yeah,
Save our Squidlets.
Indeed. There you go. That's the title. Save our Squidlets. All right. All right. I hope y'all enjoyed that. I had fun. Just full of quips, that one. FicPon and Squidlets and just all kinds of stuff that I'm definitely going to remember and probably use in the future. You might even see some stickers coming out. Maybe we'll use one of the ideas to raise money for mental health or something. But yeah, I had a great time talking to her. And it's like I said in the intro, it's just super encouraging to see sailors fixing these problems. And wouldn't it be nice if Big Navy just cut people like this a check? You know what I mean? Like, just invent a job for Grant Kahn and Jen Schooley at the Pentagon or wherever. I don't know. Put them in a dusty office and fucking wherever, or have them work remotely. But let them do this for you, because you clearly are having a problem figuring out the best way to handle this issue. And I was encouraged. You may have seen, I shared on my story a bunch of the MCPON reels where he's talking to the chief of chaplains about this kind of stuff. It's a great step. I'm really, like surprised and encouraged that you're seeing this MCPON do that. But that's like it's a tiny step. Like they're talking about it, and they're putting out there that there are some resources, and it's great. I love that the chief of chaplains was saying the things that he was saying. Me and Jen talked about chaplain stuff specifically before I even saw those reels about what a great resource they are and all that kind of stuff on the podcast. So it's really encouraging, but also like there's such a long way to go, and there's like a tangential chance that those reels provide information to a sailor that then acts on it and it saves their life. Like, and that's why it's great that he did that. But with the things that Grant, Jen, and their team are doing, they're literally, I got to watch it the other day. They're literally saving sailors' lives. I watched the other day where like they were alerted about a sailor that was having issues. I watched in real time on the Discord server as these people worked together to track him down. They found that person. They made sure they were okay. They made contact with them. And then she privately shared some of the screenshots of like that person telling her like how appreciative they were of her willingness to help, and just how great it was to know that there was somebody there for them, and that that they had that resource to lean on, and that they were in fact doing a lot better, and they appreciated it, and all this and it's just, I mean, all it takes is something like that. Imagine if you scaled that up. Imagine if you just took what they're doing and you're just hiring veterans and retirees to staff this like Discord server / whatever you want to make it. And I really passionately believe in reaching sailors where they are. So you could even just make an app, and please, for the sweet love of Christ, hire a professional to do it, because the people that made the Navy app blocker apps, yikes. But yeah, I mean, like something as simple as like being able to alert a network of people, kind of like the Project Refit app, just something to that effect. Yeah, I mean, or get behind the Project Refit app, DOD, cut them a check, whatever it is. There are so many efforts out there, and it's mind-boggling how brilliant they are and how effective they are. And a lot of them are extremely cost effective. Like Discord doesn't cost me money. I'm just on there. It's free. You just go in there, do things, talk to people. Like it has features that you have to pay for, but like everything they're all doing, to my knowledge, they're not paying a dime for the Discord stuff. So I don't know. It just blows my mind that these things exist, and that Big Navy, it's like, just get behind those things and push. Just give them resources, give them money, and get out of their way and let them fix it. because those are the types of people you need to get after these problems. You can't just hire somebody on your own. They need to be passionate about it too. And there are people that are already doing these things for just because they need to be done. Like they care. And that's the end of the motivation, is that's the one thing on the list, is they just care. They just passionately care about these people. So yeah, I don't know. I very fun episode, very fun to then subsequently see how it works, how effective it is. Just it's amazing. I highly recommend you checking them out. Go to Discord, go to the Navy Discord server. Just generally, it's a cool place to be, to vent, to hang out. There's a bunch of channels on there, one of which is the one that they use for all the mental health stuff. Let me look at it really quick, because I keep I'm trying to recall as I'm recording this the name of the server specifically. But yeah, I mean, even in the Navy server in general, there's a lot of great discussion. People are able to ask questions. There's a large cross section of people in just the main server that you can a junior sailor can go in there and ask questions of whoever's there, and you'll get there's a wide variety of people with a wide variety of experiences that you can reach instantly and that are going to be willing to answer your questions. So yeah, the main server, there's a ton of channels, and then under departments you see Lifeline Coordination, and that's the channel. And I'll have all the link in the show notes, and I'll put it in the social media post when the episode publishes as well. So if you want to check that out, I highly encourage you to do so. Whether you need the resource, you want to be involved in helping, or you just want to be monitoring it, whatever, because even that, even just being there and passively monitoring it, maybe one day Jen and the team shoots up a flare saying, hey, I need a point of contact at this command, and you're at that command so that you can then help find that sailor. I mean, it makes it better. It helps. So I would love to see the server membership just swell. So if you can do that, and just be aware that it's a resource too. That if you have a friend out there that's struggling, or a sailor, or a whoever, direct them to this. It's a really great resource, and there's people there that care. With that, if you need anything from us, have any questions, comments, concerns, hit us up. Don't Give Up the Ship Podcast at gmail.com. You can Facebook message us, Don't Give Up the Ship Podcast, or you can DM us on Instagram, Reddit, or Discord at dgutspodcast. If you want to support us, you can go to dgutspodcast.com. There's a donate button on the upper right-hand corner of the website. Or you can go to Don't Give Up the Ship Apparel. It's dgutspodcast.com. Get yourself some naval pride and heritage gear you'll actually wear in public. We got stickers and shirts and hoodies and all the things that you would expect. And we're working on more all the time. And then, you can go to patreon.com/dgutspodcast, pick one of the 5 tiers, and become a member today. There's a lot of cool benefits. It helps us expand the platform and pay all the bills, and we really, really appreciate it if you can do that. If you can't afford to spend any money, no big deal. There's all kinds of ways you can support us. Go to any podcast platform that you use to listen. Like, share, subscribe, review on all the platforms for all the things, right? Subscribe on YouTube, share the videos, tag your friends in social media posts, follow us on social media, whatever you want to do. It all helps. It all leverages the algorithms and helps us get the message out there. And we really appreciate it. And that's it. That's what I got for you today. Thank you so much for listening, and don't give up the ship. Hey, shout out to all our level 5 patrons, Victoria Livingood, William McIver, and Mark Galagos. To all our other patrons, we really appreciate your support. Helps to pay all the bills, expand the platform, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. Please hit the like button. Drop a comment down below on what you thought, and subscribe to the channel.